Hey, yo, what's the deal? That's your boy Tag from Pro Wrestling Tag, you know what I mean? As of this recording, it is 4:09 p.m., December 23rd, 2025, you know what I mean? 2 days before Christmas. You know, this the first and maybe last video of the day. You know what I mean? I just came back from work. I'm fucking tired. Actually just, ate some Chinese food earlier in the day. So if you hear a lot of stoppage, it's because I'm burpee. You know what I mean? I'm burping like a motherfucker. You know what I mean? Ate some good ass food. You know what I mean? Chinese food. Like some real classic New York City Chinese food. It sucks that, the Chinese food in New York City now costs an arm and a leg. I remember way back in the days that you could just get 4 chicken wings and fried rice for like $5 or like maybe $7.50. Like now, the prices are fucking insane. It's sad. But let me get on to the topic. So this is another thing I might be doing too. I might be doing 2 topics in one just to get things out the way. You know what I mean? For discussion and shit. You know what I mean? I'm not going outside today. I'm staying home. You know what I mean? This morning when I went to work, it was rain and snow. You know what I mean? And yeah, it fucking sucks. It does. It really does suck. So let me get on with the first story of the day. So WWE is getting ready to fast track Joe Hendry, Oba Femi, and Sol Ruca onto the main roster. Right? And of course, as you see with Javon Evans, it seems like he's going up the main roster as well. As you seen from last night's Raw, where they called him soon free agent to be. Right? And I'm shocked that he's getting that push quickly because, he hasn't even been NXT champ yet. It's crazy. But Joe Hendry, Oba Femi, and Sol Ruca. I'm not surprised, especially with Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry is a guy that was very over last year. I mean, early within the year and even last year going into 2024. You know what I mean? I think with Joe Hendry is basically, Joe Hendry is, let's keep it a stack. Joe Hendry is more of a gimmick guy now. I'm not saying that he can't wrestle because he can wrestle, but it seems like now, like with his gimmick, he's known more for the singing and, the turnaround and, and that. I love that fucking, I love his theme song. Now, I mean, he's going to get over. Now, I mean, I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry. Sol Ruca's going to do great for the women's division. I think she has a lot of talent that, will get her up to title contention. It don't matter which brand she goes to. And Oba Femi, I mean, Oba Femi, you talk about someone who is very homegrown, right? Again, we are talking about the poster child for the NIL program. Oba Femi, mind you, like he's only been in professional wrestling for 3 years, and already, like he got it. So much so that he's going up not only the main roster, but he's also going to be one of WWE's main cornerstone talents. For years to come. I mean? I can definitely see him as a main eventer for WrestleMania, because he's fucking talented. Imagine if Vince booked both Braun Breaker and Oba Femi. You know what I mean? Like, would he see both of them as top tier talents? I don't know. I don't know. But, all 3 of those guys, which also tells me, guys, and girls, and one girl, which also tells me that WWE is going to sign people as well. Not only they're trying to bring up people from NXT onto the main roster. I mean, they're talking about calling up Ethan Page. You know what I'm saying? They're talking about, Trick Williams is getting ready to make the jump, right? But you're also talking about people from Evolve going up to the main roster. And I think with people from Evolve, that's when WWE is going to be signing outside talent. And speaking of outside talent, right, I'm hearing that with Danhausen, there's some people within WWE who don't get his act, right? Who's iffy about WWE signing him because they don't, they don't get his talent. They don't get his act and shit, right? But this is what I said. Put him in fucking AAA, build him up, and then you can bring him up. And I think that's where Danhausen's going. You know what I mean? I had some douche under my comment section, say, well, they're going to put him in catering and stuff like that. But yet, look at AEW. Look how much people they got in catering. Where's Camille? Where's Wardlow? Where's Keith Lee? Where's Britt Baker? Where's Britt Baker? I expect Danhausen to go straight to, WWE, his next destination is WWE, hands down. And speaking of talent and such, right? So apparently, WWE has made a change when it comes down to scouting for international talent, right? So, especially like for Japan and Mexico, right? William Regal was that guy who, was the clear talent scout for WWE's international division. But it seems like now Matt Bloom, former A-Train and the former Lord Tensai is now taking that place because according to Ibu, right? Yeah, I know Ibu, the guy who Britt Baker basically put on Front Street, the guy who formerly was in, Wrestle Purist, but now he has his own thing, with self-made sessions. That's his shit, right? He noted that William Regal was the one that suggested names like Dragon Lee and Jay White during the AEW Stars free agency, right? Of course, you guys know Jay White wound up making the mistake by going to AEW and stuff. But then again, there was a hiring freeze. He really didn't want to go to AEW. And it's a shame what's happening with Jay White, too. I mean, and I know WWE is going to get their eyes on him, too, right? So let me tell you what Ibu said, okay, about and also he mentioned something about how William Regal also pushed hard for Okada, which I'm glad that that did not happen. Clearly. So let me read what's said, okay? Right now, and this is from Ibu himself. Right now, and I don't know if this is just I don't know if it's just he has replaced, he meaning Matt Bloom, he has replaced Regal's position. But again, Regal will do that even for guys who go through developmental, like Dragon Lee. Right now, at least on the developmental side, the guy doing that right now is the former Bernard who wrestled in New Japan as Giant Bernard. I'm talking about Matt Bloom, right? So let me read more of what Ibu said, right? Because Ibu explained that Matt Bloom has been in charge of looking at talent in New Japan Pro Wrestling, citing that William Regal's previous suggested stars may not have impressed WWE. They got him right now, locking in on what's going on in New Japan. Purely speculative. I wonder if they may have saw the previous Regal signings like Jeff Cobb and some of these guys and said, hey man, I don't know about your scouting lately. I don't know. That's just pure speculation. Pure speculation, but right now, Tensai is handling the end of things. End quote. I know Matt Bloom has been scouting stuff for NXT going back to 2014. I think he is, if I'm not mistaken, he's the sole reason why not only Shinsuke Nakamura is in WWE, but also AJ and Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, right? And I also believe Finn Balor, too. So he has a good track record when it comes down to New Japan Pro Wrestling. right? Now, even if people like Jay White and such were available during that time, I think Matt Bloom still would have scouted, Jay White and Okada, right? Now, I don't know if William Regal could be burnt out. I don't know. I honestly do not know. But I will say this. It doesn't matter if it's Matt Bloom or if it's William Regal and stuff. The scouting for New Japan Pro Wrestling talent is the same. So I'm going to assume that Matt Bloom was the one who offered the contracts to the Knockout Bros, for a WWE contract in New Japan Pro Wrestling, right? And and listen, look at Jeff Cobb, right? Even though Jeff Cobb has not panned out the way like you thought he would, right? At least he's being used a lot more in WWE TV than he would have in AEW, right? Look what the fuck they had him do at AEW, okay? They had him as, a hitman for, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but I think the Jericho Appreciation Society, I'm not sure. I got to go back and check, right? You look at that, right? And then he was defending the IWGP Tag Team Championships in AEW television. Basically, he wasn't doing shit, right? He really wasn't doing anything in New Japan Pro Wrestling, right? And at least he's in a program where it's definitely meaningful. I mean, My Family Tree, right? Look at Tama Tonga. Tama Tonga's been great for WWE, right? Hikuleo's been a hand, right? And yes, even though Jeff Cobb is a supportive player, again, you got to look at what he's doing now compared to what he would have done in AEW. Should Jeff Cobb be doing more? Should JC Mateo be doing more? Of course. But, that's not William Regal's fault. It's not his fault. And also think about this too, okay? WWE dodged the bullet with Okada because Okada, is not a guy who, Okada to me is a massive bust. He's a massive bust because, the internet fans and such were basically, like they made him seem like he's the next big thing in America, but he's been trash. He's been Basuda. He's been Basuda. And I wonder also if, William Regal tried to go for what's his face, for Will Ospreay. I wonder if that's the case. I don't know. But maybe they have William Regal, doing other stuff. I don't know. I honestly don't know. But I have trust in Matt Bloom because Matt Bloom does have a good record with New Japan Pro Wrestling. He does. Just like William Regal, he has a little bit more pull than William Regal when it comes down to, to the ins and outs of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Right? That's just me. That's just me. But, do you also think that maybe William Regal tried to push for Mercedes last year, to come back to WWE? You think? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know. But, this is not a bad thing. Matt Bloom, like I said, Matt Bloom he's a good talent scout. The only fucked up thing though is who in New Japan Pro Wrestling right now can you say is a stick out star? Because AEW basically just burnt. They porched New Japan's entire fucking entire structure. They porched their entire operation, right? And there's nothing there with New Japan Pro Wrestling. Nothing. So if they're gonna be scouting talent, who's there? The question is who's really there? Who's there? And that's just something that, we're going to have to wait and see and such. But anyway, guys, I'm about to be out. You know what I mean? I might, and this is a big might, I might come with a video tonight. I don't fucking know. It depends how I'm feeling. And depends if there's anything sensational. All right? So I'm going to holler at y'all. Peace.